woman held a seance and she said, there's a spirit of a 6-year-old girl in that doll who was killed in an automobile accident just outside of your apartment house here. Well, there was a 6-year-old child by the name of Annabelle who was killed. But God does not allow the spirit of a child to go into a doll. This was a demon who was posing as that little child to create sympathy to these two young women, which it did. Now this was no longer a doll. This was a child. They would take it for rides. They'd talk to it. Mm-hmm. They'd buy clothing for it, jewelry. They treated it just as though it was that little girl who was killed, Annabelle.
A man visited a museum. He laughed at a doll locked in a glass case. He tapped on the glass, mocked the legend. 3 hours later, he crashed his motorcycle into a tree. He died on impact. His girlfriend survived, but spent a year recovering. The name of the doll? Annabelle. In this video, you'll hear the true story behind one of the most infamous cursed objects in the world. This isn't about a Hollywood invention. It's about a real doll. One that's been blamed for attacks, possessions, even death. And yes, it still exists. You've seen her in movies. The Conjuring, Annabelle. But the truth is stranger. Ed and Lorraine Warren were real-life paranormal investigators. And when they claimed a doll was cursed, they didn't mean it figuratively. They believed it was a vessel for something demonic. So let's start at the beginning. Not in a haunted house, but with a birthday gift. It was 1970. A nursing student named Donna received a second-hand doll from her mother. A Raggedy Ann, stitched smile, red yarn hair, harmless in every way. At least, that's how it seemed. She placed the doll on her bed, a childhood comfort in the middle of her adult routine. Something familiar in an unfamiliar city. But soon, Donna and her roommate Angie noticed something odd. The doll never seemed to stay put. One day it was sitting on the couch, another day in the hallway. Once Donna found it in her locked bedroom. Despite no one having the key, they dismissed it. Stress, maybe. Nursing school wasn't exactly forgiving. But then, the notes started showing up. Short, scribbled messages, childlike handwriting. Help us. Help Lou? Lou was Angie's fiancé. He didn't live in the apartment, but he visited often. And he hated the doll. From the start, Lou said something felt off. He claimed it gave him headaches, that it stared at him, that it moved when he looked away. Donna laughed it off, Angie too, until Lou was attacked. He had been sleeping alone in the apartment when he woke to the sensation of being watched. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, but he could see. The doll, Annabelle, was at the foot of the bed, staring up at him. And then, he felt pressure on his chest, hands, invisible but real, choking. He finally broke free, scratched, shaken, and very much done with pretending it was a joke. That's when they brought in a medium, someone who could talk to whatever was going on. The seance was calm at first, then quiet, then cold. The medium said the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a girl named Annabelle Higgins, 7 years old when she died in a nearby field. Lonely, drawn to the doll. Donna and Angie believed it. They weren't the type to ignore a lost child. So they gave the spirit permission to stay. That was their mistake. Because according to the Warrens, that's not how spirits work. Not human ones, anyway. What Donna invited wasn't a little girl. It was something else. Something pretending to be one. The activity escalated. Footsteps, cold spots, whispers when no one was home. The doll appeared in different rooms, Doors slammed, lights flickered. But the worst came back to Lou. He was alone again, only this time, fully awake. And when he turned his back, he felt something claw at his chest. 3 long scratches, deep but bloodless. That was enough. They called the Warrens. When Ed and Lorraine arrived, they didn't hesitate. They'd seen this before. Not the doll exactly, but the pattern. A spirit claiming to be a child, gaining sympathy, earning trust, then feeding on fear. They believed this wasn't a ghost. It was a demon, and it wasn't just haunting the doll. It was trying to possess the people around it. They called in a priest, performed a blessing, sealed the apartment with prayer. But they didn't stop there. The Warrens took the doll, placed it in their car, and started the drive home. They didn't take the highway. They took back roads. Slower, safer, at least in theory. Halfway home, the car stalled. The brakes locked, the steering seized, over and over. It wasn't until Ed splashed holy water on the doll that the car behaved normally again. When they got home, they placed Annabelle in a chair, just for the night. By morning, she was gone. They found her in a different room, then another, and another. She moved, with no footsteps, no help, no warning. Back in Monroe, the Warrens placed the doll in a chair in Ed's study, just for the night. By morning, it had moved, from the study to the hallway, then to the kitchen. Later, Lorraine found it in her prayer room. There were no signs of tampering, no one else in the house, just the doll, changing locations on its own. Ed called a priest, someone they trusted. He blessed the room, said prayers, and laughed. "It's just a doll," he said. That afternoon, his brakes failed. The car flipped. He survived, but with permanent spinal damage. He never joked about it again. After that, Ed commissioned a protective case. Thick glass, sealed edges, holy water-lined panels. They placed the doll inside. On the front, a sign that read, "Positively do not open." The case remains closed, not because the doll is dangerous by itself, but because of what might be using it. The Warrens never destroyed Annabelle, not out of fear, but because they believed the entity inside couldn't be destroyed that easily, only released, and no one wants to see what happens then.